Folks, we are live. Welcome to Talking Crit. I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, and with me, as always, on Wednesday nights, is none other than my work spouse, Bad Mike Battalato.
Hello. I'm sorry, I'm eating a piece of candy right now.
I thought Mike was giving me
Trying
the
to get
finger because I called him my work spouse, but that's
I
okay.
did. I was doing that.
Okay.
Absolutely giving you the finger.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Just so you know, I could do the Italian, hey, but I didn't do that. I could.
Dude, my last name's Battalato. Don't try to pull your Italian shit on me. My great grandfather came over on a boat with my grandfather and his brother. He was newly divorced in like 1920, I think, and it was after World War I. So I'm not sure exactly what year, but I want to say 1920, 21. Got divorced, which I guess is weird back then, and then came across the United States, maybe to get away from his ex-wife. I don't know, but he took his two sons with him, and there's a lot of Battalatos in New York or on the East Coast now. I don't know which ones I'm related to, but his family was pretty big. He ended up having seven kids. My grandfather had 7 kids. My uncle Ange, great uncle Ange, had I think another 6 or 7 kids. So it's a lot of Battalatos rolled across the ocean back in 1920 or so.
That's why they're bad. Mm-hmm. Terry, welcome. So as you can see, if you look at the screen right now, we have Steve Perrin's wiki page. And there's a reason why we have Steve Perrin's wiki page, because he passed this past week. And he accomplished a lot for gaming that most people don't realize. I'll be honest, I didn't realize that under Ilfarn.
Under Ilfarn, yeah, Ilfarn.
It's an adventure that I ran multiple times back in the day. Loved it. I didn't know it was Steve Perrin that wrote it, because we weren't as wired into this, I think, back then. We weren't as fanboyish about creators. But that's a whole other topic. But in any case, now, Mike, we're getting a little bit of a feedback.
I know what it was. I actually turned the webpage on. I'm sorry, the YouTube. I turned the YouTube page on at the same time. I was wondering why I was getting that weird feedback. Okay, that was me. My bad.
I hear myself as a ghost.
I know, I did too, and I thought, what the hell's going on? Like, because I clicked the link to send us to our own YouTube page. That we do things like that because we don't know what we're doing most of the time. But exactly what Eric said. Steve passed away Monday. So little inside information here. Steve's been a guest at the con, North Texas RPG Con, for about the last 3 or 4 years. Doug reached out to him. I think Steve Winter was the one that suggested Doug call Steve Perrin. I knew a little bit about Steve Perrin, but he wasn't super high on my radar. But he came to the last few cons. I didn't make it 2020 because of COVID. And this year, about a week before the con, he sent me an email that said, look, I'm not going to make it. I'm sick. I'm not feeling well. And I might have pneumonia, this, that. I was like, hey, you need to take care of yourself first. Well, it wasn't COVID. He said, it was, I'm just sick with this. His wife was also sick. And he said, like, I just, and basically what he told me was he was being funny. He said, I'm incontinent right now. I'm basically pooping all the time. Because I can't really get on a plane. I'm like, you know what? Yeah. you just stay at home, get better. And we'll see you next year, because he loved to come to the con. He really wanted to come in 2020. Doug pretty much talked him out of it. Said, look, you're older. You're exactly the at-risk person. We don't want to be the con that killed Steve Perrin. So Doug pretty much talked about it coming in 2020, but he really wanted to come that year. He just had so much fun and loved coming. And so apparently, from reading his page, he never really got better. He was just sick. He was having a heart arrhythmia. Some other issues came up. He was older, 75 years old, 74, 75. 75. And, he just had some issues, and passed away pretty suddenly Sunday or Monday. And leaves behind his wife, who he was married to for quite a long time. And just a really sad thing. And so when he passed away, I knew this guy had been involved in RPGs forever. I've been seeing his name on stuff since I was a kid, but it wasn't until people started putting up these, biography, or these biographies of him. I was like, holy crap. I'd forgotten just how much this guy had done, and the fact that we really lost, a very important part of our RPG history with Steve. Because Steve was in there since the very beginning, and we're talking about, the very beginning, like even before the games, he was a huge dabbler in fanzines. He was a gigantic comic book fan. He published in a lot of comic book fanzines, but he also was one of the earliest contributors to Alarms Excursions, which, for those who don't know, was a journal that came out started in the 70s. I think it's still being published by Lee Gold.
I think it still is, yeah.
And it was a fanzine where people would send in articles, and then they would all be collated by Lee Gold, and they would be sent out to everybody in the subscriber list. Well, Steve, along with people like Steve Marsh and a few other people that ended up with big careers in gaming, published a lot of his early rules for D&D and for RPGs in Alarms and Excursions. And he was just a very early contributor. Also a huge member of the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is, kind of where he first got started. He was in the Society for Creative Anachronism back in the 60s. He did that quite a long time. But yeah, so he was involved in the game from the very beginning. And so Eric and I thought, we were going to spend a little time talking about it, because something that Eric and I have talked about among ourselves the last couple of years is just the fact that, it's no secret these guys are getting older, and they're
right.
We're going to start losing them. We're going to start losing all the older voices in our hobby. Sooner rather than later. It really sucks, but that's just the way it is. And it's worth it to spend some time talking to these people. If you're at a convention, definitely you want to get these people. Steve Perrin was really interesting. I never got enough time to talk to him, but the times I did, he was an absolute font of gaming knowledge, because he'd been there since the beginning. He was good friends with Greg Stafford. He knew Ken St. Andre. He knew all these guys, all these Chaosium guys. And then from there on out, he worked for TSR. He was what do you call it?
Freelancer, I guess.
Freelancer for TSR. Did a kind of a really eclectic little group of stuff. He did some of my favorite items for TSR, including Dreams of the Red Wizards, which was a Forgotten Realms supplement that I always liked. And so Steve did that, which I'd forgotten about. N5 under Illifar, and we're going to talk about that in depth in a little bit, because Eric and I both have stories about that, and a post Greg Gillespie made this week, which, by the way, I'm going to ask you guys forgiveness. We could have had Greg Gillespie on the show tonight to talk about Steve. That was my bad, because I did not even think about asking Greg until 30 minutes before the show began. Hey, wait a second, because he posted a really nice eulogy to Steve, because he had been in contact with Steve in July, and he had told Steve that Under Illifarm was a huge influence on Barrel Maze. And so they had been talking back and forth, and I was going to get Greg on here to talk about some of the stuff they talked about, but we can do that. We'll do that another time. Another time we'll get Greg on here. And
we got his eulogy ready to be
right.
read. And you probably have I have it so people can see it at home, but I could probably.
I'll go ahead and read it out. So this is what Greg posted. Sunday after he passed away. I'm very sad to hear the passing of Steve Perrin. I reached out to Steve very recently for the first time on July 11th. I asked about the module Under Illifarn, and he was gracious enough to answer a couple of my questions. The conversation went silent. I guess he was unwell, and then he picked it up out of the blue on July 31st, and we chatted some more. I told him how important his work was to me and how important Under Illifarn was to my approach to Barrel Maze Complete. I'm very sad to hear of his passing. We stand on the shoulders of greater man. Rest in peace. And I'd never, I'd played Under Illifarn. You had too, Eric.
Yeah.
We both talked about that.
I ran it.
I don't know if I ever noticed that, but once I started thinking about it, there's a huge influence on Barrel Maze from Illifarn in 5. That it does have a. And under the form, it's worth seeking out. If you don't know how to have this module, it's worth it seeking out, because it came out right when first edition was switching to second edition. So I'm not sure. I think it's a first edition adventure.
I think it's first, but it's that strange era where
it's right in between. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it comes with a village. I think it's Daggerford. Daggerford's a village. And so it has a whole village, and then there's a couple little mini quests, and there's this mini dungeon. And it's a dwarven mining dungeon. it is a great campaign starter. And it's such a good campaign starter that they basically reprinted the entire thing. There's a box set that came out from TSR late in their run in the 90s called The North. And they basically reprint the entire N5 in the North because they have the village of Daggerford in there. But it's just a great little setting for D&D. That's just something that Steve was so good at. And so I totally forgot that. But you've ran some campaigns in Steve Perrin's module, Elefaren, correct?
I ran it I'm going to say I've run it at least 3 times. I know I ran it for my high school group. I ran it in college for my college group. And I think I ran it with my regular players in my college years. I mean, it's got setting, and it's got the dungeon, and it's got all those little moving parts going behind it. You have a number of sessions of adventuring just from that. There's just so much packed into it. Forget the fact that it's Forgotten Realms. A lot of people hate the Forgotten Realms aspect of it. There's just so much thrown into it.
I always love those adventures that come with a ready-made village, too, because that way you don't have to dig around your notes. You just go, oh, look, here's this little village here. You can that's what you use as your home base, boom. And then, I used it at least twice as a campaign starter because I just said, hey, you characters are in Daggerford. You heard about Illifarm, which is this ancient mining complex, and there's a lot of little adventures. It's kind of like a sandbox. There's all these little adventures in the mountains there and whatever. So it was great for that. And I had totally forgotten that was written by Steve. He's the very versatile guy. Well, so getting back to Steve's earlier career, he came out in the 70s with a series called All the World's Monsters. And I remember this, and I'm sure Eric does too, because back in the day, this came out about the same time as the Monster Man came out in 1977. You were looking for anything out there that had anything about D&D because there wasn't much published for D&D. So you would always grab Judges Guild stuff. You grab whatever company came out with something, you grab it, and then you just convert it to D&D, right? And that's kind of like All the World's Monsters because it was 3 books of monsters. You always wanted new monsters, especially monsters that your characters had never seen or your players had never seen before. Because you wanted to screw them over, right? They didn't, and so I have a very beat up copy of All the World's Monsters that I would pull monsters out of to use against the party because that way they wouldn't know what their stats were or what they did or anything about it. Of course, I was too dumb to know back then I could just made up my own monster, but no, that was better. I love doing that. I love basically using stuff like All the World's Monsters. But even past that, Steve's huge bullet point is a game called RuneQuest, which there's so many firsts with this game. Number one, it used a system called basic roleplaying, which is basically percentile dice, right? It's percentages. And this system was so popular, it was used pretty much for all Chaosium's games for the next 5 or 6 years. Call of Cthulhu, Stormbringer,
World.
So for all those games, they all use basic role playing. It's still in print to this day, basic role playing. I mean, they Chaosium it still publishes a book about basic role playing, which is actually it's a really good system. It's a very simple, elegant system because it just bases everything on percentiles, which is that's one of the easiest things you can do, and that way everything makes sense. If everything's percentile, it works out. Now, Chaosium has changed up their system a little bit for, I know, Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, while still using percentiles, also does some other things too. But he was the father of that. Steve Perrin's father. Now, he often gets overlooked for Greg Stafford, because Greg Stafford created Glorantha, which was Glorantha was based. Glorantha and RuneQuest are like this, kind of like Greyhawk and AD&D, right? Right. I mean, it's just that was the world that pretty much RuneQuest was set on, much like the world of Greyhawk at the very beginning. That was really the world you used if you wanted to play AD&D. And so, but he's overlooked a lot. But Perrin was the one that created the system and created the game RuneQuest. And what's so innovative about RuneQuest, if you look back on it, was there was no classes. That was the first role-playing game where they said, we're not going to have classes. You just had what's called skills. And so you build your character. Your character could cast spells. I mean, your character could do anything that you had a skill for. So there was no mages, no fighters, no. It reminds me a lot of if you've played Skyrim or any of the games by Bethesda, the Morrowind, or any of those games. In those games, it's the same way. You can be a fighter, but you also can cast spells or do thief things or heal. That's what RuneQuest did. RuneQuest said you're not going to be a class character. You're going to be a skilled character. That was so far ahead of its time. I mean, think about that, because everything back then was character classes. You were a fighter, you were a thief. I mean, every other system, that's what they used, right? You had to pick a character class.
Right, and there was no leveling. That's something that I really liked about RuneQuest. Yes, your skills can increase, but in theory, you could take beginning characters, and again, we didn't call it a sandbox back then, but when I picked up RuneQuest Second Edition, I also picked up Pavis and Big Rubble. The book and the 2 box sets cost me $20 at the game convention at Columbia University, I believe, in 1986. They were a little water damaged, but on the outside of it, man, it was great. I ran a summer of 4 or 5 days a week gaming in Pavis and Big Rubble, and I ran it as a sandbox. Again, not calling it a sandbox, but it had so much information. And the two, Pavis and Big Rubble, worked so well together because they were literally a max set. And I'd gotten, RuneQuest 3rd Edition from Avalon Hill as a Christmas present. And immediately said, I don't really think I like this. But when I found RuneQuest 2, I fell in love. I mean, It was an awesome, amazing system. And even with fucking ducks, it was a great. I don't know why Steve had to include ducks. I guess Howard the Duck was big back then, right?
There's a story about that. Yeah, I think Janelle told the story once, because Janelle loved the ducks, and she's actually done some adventures having to do with the ducks. But she told me the story, and dang if I forgot the whole story. We probably need to have Janelle on the show at some point and tell us about Steve. But yeah, the duck thing I thought the duck thing was kind of funny, actually. And yes, and Howard the Duck came out in '76, so that was also actually Howard the Duck was a couple years before that, so there may have been some Howard the Duck influences.
Yeah, okay. I'm just throwing it out there. It was well treated. It's certainly a race that my players would initially look at and go, "What the? Oh, all right, maybe." We were too young to be alcoholics at the time, so nobody really was that drunk to say, "I'll play a duck." But at least they didn't bat an eye when they came across one in an adventure.
So some of the story. So for those who don't know, back in the day, late '70s, RuneQuest was the second most popular game to D&D because they both came at the same time, but they were both different enough that you could play both, and they didn't steal from each other. AD&D was not like RuneQuest. RuneQuest is not like AD&D. Now, one of the things that hurt RuneQuest was and I've talked to Janelle Jaquays about this, it was very difficult to create adventures for because of the characters, because of the way you had to build characters. And Janelle has told me that one of the reasons she doesn't run RuneQuest more, even though she loves the system, is that it's so hard to create characters or NPCs for that system. And the reason being is because there's so many different. Because if a character can do anything, if they can have, a character can have healing and spells and thief abilities. It's a lot of it is incumbent on the DM to have to choose what each NPC has, and that's why some of the earliest publications for RuneQuest were these books of like just characters. They have a whole book. I can't remember. One was called Mercenaries and Militia or something. And it's just books and books of characters because they were so hard to roll up. You couldn't just roll up. And so the story I have about RuneQuest was when I went to college in '81, the dorm on campus, the co-ed dorm, there was the bottom floor was the shared room where you had the TV and all the stuff. Caddy corner, on one corner, there was a big room with a table, and caddy corner across the entertainment area, whatever you call it, there was another room. And so if you were running a D&D game or RPG game, you would rent those. You don't really rent it, but you put your name down and get those rules. So the college I went to, there was two big groups there. There was a RuneQuest group, and there was a D&D group, and they were sworn mortal enemies. And I have no clue what the history of this was or whatever. But you either played the RuneQuest or you played the D&D. They did not mix, and they were both pretty. You'd go there on a Sunday and the rooms were full. I'm talking about 14, 20 people in each room. And once people found out that I played role-playing games, I kept getting the pitch from both sides. Man, you got to come in and play RuneQuest, man. It is the best game. Well, I play D&D. D&D, that sucks. Man, you're too smart to play D&D. Because the whole thing was the RuneQuest people would like, oh, it's more of an intellectual game and this and that. D&D's for, it's for dummies. And the D&D people would be like, oh, RuneQuest is, it's way too complicated. It's just unnecessarily complicated. You just want to play D&D. So it was funny, but because it was a very heated rivalry back then.
Oh, I'm sure.
Which is funny in retrospect because obviously D&D since RuneQuest not really published so much, but it was funny back then. But it was a very popular game in this late 70s, early 80s. One of the problems was Chaosium sold most of the role-playing stuff except for Call of Cthulhu to Avalon Hill in the mid-80s, and that actually absolutely killed the game. And what sucks is it shouldn't have killed the game because Avalon Hill at the time was a huge company, and they were looking for an RPG to break into the RPG business since RPGs were so big.
They did it on the fucking cheap. That was the
problem. And they did not understand RPGs. They knew war games, backwards, forwards, upside down. They had no clue about RPGs. They tried to publish their own RPG. What was it? Perils and what was that called, Eric?
Was it Pits and Perils?
It's Perils and something. Oh gosh, I got to look it up now.
Oh shit! All right, so it wasn't Pits and
Perils. It's
Perilous Journey.
No, Powers and Peril. No, Powers and Perils.
Powers and Perils. Okay, I have that too.
It's terrible. It's bad. So they tried to publish their own game. It didn't work, and they thought, well, let's just buy an existing game, and we'll publish that. And they made a good call because RuneQuest at the time was very popular. They bought RuneQuest. The problem is they didn't know RPGs. They didn't understand how to produce stuff. That Greg Stafford, who was really kind of the big deal behind RuneQuest, they kind of pushed him out. Greg Greg is very passionate about RuneQuest because of Glorantha. He could have helped out Avalon Hill a lot, but they pushed him out. They just screwed it up every which way they could screw it up.
Right, and they didn't get the rights to Glorantha either. Glorantha was, I think initially it was like a separate license. And what's weird is they got the trademark, if I understand right. They got the RuneQuest trademark, but the rules were still copyright Chaosium. It was a very weird situation.
Right.
Listen, the fucking rule books had thin paper for their fucking covers. There was nothing redeemable, and they had a magazine for it too, which lasted 7 issues, I think. I have all 7.
And the problem was with having RuneQuest Glorantha, it'd be like if in the early mid 80s TSR had sold D&D to a company but kept the world of Greyhawk didn't come with it. What's the point? The World of Greyhawk at the time was D&D. Yes, they published a lot of D&D that wasn't World of Greyhawk, but that was the foundation stone of D&D. So the same thing with Glorantha and RuneQuest because they had that relationship. So publishing. So if you read some of this Avalon Hill stuff, I'm Griffin Island. There's some other some stuff is not horrible. The problem is it doesn't have any personality because it's not set on Glorantha anymore.
Well, not only that, was it Griffin Island or Griffin Mountain?
Well, Griffin Mountain was the first published one. That was by,
all right.
And that's a great publication. That's a great adventure. Griffin Island was an attempt to make Griffin Mountain change it up, and they put it on a jungle island, and it doesn't have any Glorantha connections. And while not terrible, it's not anywhere near as good as Griffin Mountain was. Griffin Mountain was a great adventure.
Monster Coliseum, by the way, the only product in my RPG.
Oh, we got to hear about Monster Coliseum again. Here we go.
I fucking returned that to. No, I was like, this is gonna be great, and I get it home. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
By the way,
and I actually went back the same day. Oh yeah. All right.
Sponsored by Bullet.
And
I could probably tell the story by now. You brought it back because it was so terrible. I heard this story because this scarred you for life. This actually scarred you.
And then the next time I went back, I saw it reshrinked on the shelf.
Oh,
I was like,
well, you didn't touch it. I mean, you didn't.
No. I popped it open. And I went, what?
But Evelyn Hill had a disastrous relationship with RPGs. But going back a little bit with Chaosium, there was some absolutely incredible RuneQuest publications that Steve also worked on. Two of them that Eric and I are huge fans of, Pavis and Big Rubble.
Ooh.
And let me give you a little background. So these are both box sets. If you see these, buy them. They have reprints of them now. They have softcover reprints. Buy them and read them. They are two of the best gaming supplements ever published. And so the overreaching plot line is, now you don't have to, if you don't want to put it in the world of Glantha, you don't have to. But basically you have this giant set of ruins. It's called Big Rubble. And giants ruled there years ago. They've all died out. They left this gigantic ruined city there. And it's got these giant walls around it. There's all kinds of monsters. I mean, your brain can positively percolate thinking of these things, thinking what you could do with a giant ruined city with these huge walls, and you have to know your way in, and it's so dangerous in there. You can't spend the night in there. If you go in there and you don't come out, you're going to die. I mean, you have to. And so because of this, there's a city called Pavis nearby Big Rubble. So that's what. So people go into Big Rubble, they explore it, they get treasure, they come out, and they go to Pavis. So basically, you have these two great fantasy supplements, box sets, Pavis and Big Rubble. And Eric can tell you more about Big Rubble because apparently Eric played more. I have always wanted to work Big Rubble into a campaign, never been able to do it, which is too bad because it's really great.
No, yeah, it was my first sandbox that I really ran, and I ran it. I didn't know it, but I ran it like a sandbox with my players exploring and stumble across stuff and coming across cults that are doing shit in the background because it's Glantha. There's always shit going on in the background. And there's a lot of little subplots of politics. And taking the two and being able to intermesh those two products was literally a summer of gaming 3, 4, 5, 10 days a week, all with RuneQuest. Just using, and it was only one copy of the rules. But you didn't, unlike AD&D, my players didn't need a copy of the rules once they had the character sheet in front of them. It wasn't like he had all those.
Right.
The fiddly parts were minimal, and the thing that I really liked about RuneQuest is it's a system that fits the sandboxing feel very well because in theory, again, because there's no levels and people aren't getting infinite hit points, they go up in level.
Yeah.
Players have an idea. Oh shit, we can't defeat what's coming at us. Time to retreat or really think tactically, and it really makes play not only different, but it allows a sandbox to not feel like, oh well, we can't go there because we haven't reached the proper level yet. No, you can go there and you got to think smart. Because whether maybe if you waited another 4 weeks of gameplay, you might be a bit more skilled. You're not going to have any more hit points. It's not going to. You might have a little bit better armor. It's all about the planning. It's all about the execution, and that's different than AD&D, which often rewards just bullying your way through shit.
Yeah, you definitely had to make better plans for Big Rubble or any kind of RuneQuest thing that you did rather than D&D. You definitely relied on tactics and planning more than just like, I'm an 8th level fighter. I'm just going to go in there and kick everybody's ass. It really can't hurt me. And
right.
It was a lot different. You had to make sure, especially since you had skills and not character classes, you had to make sure you had the right kind of mixture of skills to go up against an opponent or against something dangerous. One of the best scenarios. So if you are serious about wanting to know the history of gaming and serious about getting good stuff, I mean, maybe Eric and I will have a show sometime about best supplements to buy. I mean, one of them would be Call Cthulhu's Mass Neurolitotep, which is one of the best, probably the best campaign for any system ever published, but Big Rubble is pretty close because they have one of the best scenarios I've ever read in Big Rubble, and it's the final one in there. And basically, there's a river there called the River of Cradles, and it's called the River of Cradles because centuries earlier, when a baby giant would be born, they'd put him in a cradle, and of course, there's a lot of religious allusions in this, as you can guess.
Right.
They make this cradle for him so it's big as a small house, because giants in RuneQuest are giants. They're like titans. I mean, they're huge, and they would send these babies down this river to go into the sea, and go into the sea, and eventually they'd come to somewhere and they'd be raised. There's a bunch of legends associated with that. Well, this hasn't happened in, I think, like centuries. So your party gets the message that a cradle with a baby giant is coming down the river, and from there they can go any which way whatsoever. There's in the city, there's probably about 5, 6, half a dozen different factions. Some want to kill the baby, some want to save the baby, some figure if they get control of the baby, they can use it they can raise it however. And so you'll be approached by all these factions. And so what ends up happening, it looked to me like, just from reading, I've always wanted to play it, is that you end up defending the baby. So your characters are on this cradle, and you've got everybody attacking this cradle. You've got dragons, you've got ancient demons that nobody's seen in centuries. You've got orcs and everybody's attacking this cradle, and your characters are doing this running battle all up and down the river, trying to save not little baby, but this baby giant, so this cradle can get to the river or get out to the ocean. And it's just the most amazing scenario. Reading it, I just said, man, that's the kind of scenario that would be worth playing as a campaign ender almost, because I don't know if you could top it. I mean, it's just, your characters are on this mythical mission for something that hasn't happened in centuries, trying to keep this baby alive while Big Rubble is throwing everything it has at this kid to try to kill it. And your guys have to sit there and say, even if we die, we're going to die for a purpose. That's to protect this baby. So it's an amazing, if you get a chance, look up the Big Rubble reprint. It's probably much cheaper than buying the box set.
Probably.
I sold a box set to Glazer last year for $150, and actually I gave him a deal on it, I think. So it's a pretty expensive box set at this point, but I think the reprint's probably a lot cheaper. But that's the kind of stuff that everything Steve did was just so interesting. And some of the stuff he did for TSR, he did Dreams of the Red Wizards, which in my book is one of the best Forgotten Realms supplements. It was FR6. It came out in I think it was still considered a first edition. It came out in '88. Dreams of the Red Wizards is a great supplement talking about the Fae and the Res Wizards of Fae, and he has spells in there and just different, talks about Fae, and it's the kind of place that you don't really want to visit, but you might have to go to on a mission and kill some Red Wizards and try to avoid being killed. So, I mean, that's a great little supplement he did. What else did he do? He did a bunch of. He did a lot of little things. Oh, he did Elves of Alfheim for Mystara. Yep. Oh yes, for Chaosium, he also did ElfQuest. Did the translation of that from the comic to the game. That's a huge cult following. A lot of people love the Chaosium version of ElfQuest. He did work on. He helped do Stormbringer with Ken St. Andre. I think he did some of the stuff in Thieves World, the box set. I know he did at least one snare, one part of the Thieves World. But he had a hand in all the RuneQuest stuff. The Cults of Prax. I think he did something for Borderlands is a good box set too. Now Borderlands is RuneQuest without Glorantha, but it's still a really good box set if you find Borderlands. I think he did some Borderlands stuff also. It's not unlike Big Rubble and Pavis. It does not have that Glorantha connection, I believe.
Well, according to this, he worked for TSR, FASA, Hero Games, West End Games, Iron Crown Enterprises. So I mean, he was.
Oh, he just ice. Yeah.
He was a well-rounded freelancer, and worked on for Interplay Productions, Masters, Spectrum Holobyte. So he worked on computer games too.
And let me. So here's another bullet point too that I stumbled across. He was a huge comic book fan. Wrote for a lot of comic book fanzines, and of course, one of the games he created for Chaosium was Superworld. And unfortunately, Super World was it came out at the same time Champions came out. And for some reason, God only knows, because I don't like Champions. I don't know why people love Champions. Champions took over everything. Champions pushed aside. Our game was Villains and Vigilantes. That's what my group played. We want to play superheroes. But honestly, I like Villains, Vigilantes, and Super World better than I like Champions. But for some reason, Champions, everybody loved Champions. So all the other superhero games at the time kind of got shoved aside. It wasn't a big enough audience that you could support a whole lot of superhero RPGs.
Right.
But Super World is well remembered by many, and it was easy. I think it was easier to play than Champions.
And easier than Villains and Vigilantes. By the way, Borderlands is in Gloranthia, according to Jeff.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, then I was wrong. I couldn't remember if it was or not. But so for a little bullet point here, Super World was so George R. R. Martin was a friend of Steve Perrin, and Steve gave him a copy of Super World for a birthday present. And George Martin loved it. They played it for years. The campaigns they played ended up becoming the Wild Card series, which George R. R. Martin did all the editing on, did some of the stories from, and I think it's still continuing to this day. I think there's like 20 or 30 books in the Wild Card series, but Wild Cards came about because of Super World. That was the setting. And if you're familiar with any of the Wild Cards characters, I believe the Turtle Boy. Oh, I'm trying to remember some of the early characters. Those all came from Super World campaigns, and the stories were later written up, kind of like Weiss and Hickman did with their Dragonlance campaign. That was written up to become the first few Wild Cards novels.
Interesting.
So I didn't know that.
The first two novels, and listen, I enjoyed comic books. I enjoy the current Marvel and DC movies and serials, but I can never get into superhero RPGs. My friends loved the Marvel Heroes game. I had no desire to play, like, I don't know, Spider-Man when somebody else is playing Iron Man.
Well, that's why I always like to play the games like See, I was never big into DC or Marvel heroes like you because I didn't want to play the regular heroes. I wanted to make up my own hero type thing.
Right.
And so, we did a lot of we like Villains Vigilantes because Villains Vigilantes was very well supported. There was quite a few modules for that. I think that's why we picked that over any of the other ones. And like I said, I could just never get into Champions. There was so much math involved.
Too many fucking dice.
Me and math are like, and so I just like,
I need a bucket of D6s. I remember trying to design characters for that.
Yes.
And this must have been, I don't know, 87, 88, because it was my friend Lenny before I went into the Air Force when he turned 18. And I remember sitting at his kitchen table going, I read these rules like 3 times, dude, and I still don't understand how you get like 17 dice and why, but it says you do. And then I was like, oh, look, I can play more games now with buckets of dice because they're coming out with science fiction. And
Champions had the worst art of any of them too. I don't get it. I'll never understand. I mean, Villains Vigilantes had Jeff D doing art. It was kick ass. I mean, So anyway, Super World was that was fun. I never played Super World. I read through the rules. I always enjoyed it. There's one of the ones I always wanted to use. So yeah, Steve did a lot of work for TSR, and their ladies were nice. He went on, as most of the people that time period that were really talented did. He went into computer games, did a lot of computer stuff in the 90s and onward until he retired. And then he was kind of making a comeback. I talked to Steve Marsh and a few other people. He was rewriting the Super World rules, which is awesome.
Really?
Yes, he had a few projects. He was working on RuneQuest and Super World, doing a rewrite, until he unexpectedly passed away last week. So this dude, man, his bullet points are off the charts. If you don't know who he is, like I said, my suggestions would be to look for Big Rubble. Even if you don't play RuneQuest, you don't have to play RuneQuest. Good writing is just good writing, right? Good scenarios are good scenarios. I would look for the reprints of Big Rubble and Pavis. Definitely under Illitharn, N5 under Illitharn. I don't know if Drive-Thru has done a reprint of that. They probably have. If they have, it's well worth getting if you just want your instant. Here's a dungeon. Eric's looking that up right now.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yep. Here's a city. Here's a dungeon. Boom. Get after it. So it's a great adventure for that.
Yeah, it's $5 in PDF.
Well worth buying for that.
It's not on print on demand yet. It has an average rating of 4.5 out of 5 with 14 ratings.
I'm not going to tell you it's the best thing you've ever read or it's going to blow your mind. It has innovations. It's just a good, solid campaign starting adventure. That's what it is.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good, solid little campaign starter. But yeah, I feel it sucks because he loved North Texas RPG Con. I never got a chance to talk to him for a very long period of time. If you have been on Facebook the past week, you've probably blown your mind the amount of professionals in the industry that have given homage to him because he was that important. He really was. And what sucks about this is, and Eric and I talked about this is going to happen a lot in the next few years. These guys are not getting any younger, and we're gonna have this happen a lot. So, I mean, my advice is when you go to cons, find these guys, look them up, talk to them. Do like Greg Gillespie did. Greg Gillespie just sent him an email and said, "Hey, man, I love your stuff." Sent him a message through Facebook. I love your stuff. Talk to me. These guys, a lot of them love to talk about their time, and they're not going to be here forever. Get to know these guys and definitely look up their contributions to the hobby and to the industry. I mean, it really sucks. Like I said, he loved coming to North Texas, and he had a great time there. Everybody that played in his games loved it. I mean, I didn't hear one bad word about these guys. And let me tell you, sometimes you hear bad words about professionals. I'm not going to name names, but sometimes people.
No naming names. But I've had experiences with professionals, both good and bad. Because you know what? When it comes down to it, everybody's human, right? And sometimes you deal with somebody, they're having a bad day. They're having a bad week. They're having a bad fucking year. It happens. But I've never heard anything bad about Steve. You know, whatever stories I've heard about Steve has always been how he was positive in influencing somebody, or they had a question and he answered it. You know, I mean, and believe it or not, answering somebody's inquiries is time consuming, especially when you've got a history in gaming like Steve. But
Jeff, you're right. I was thinking of Quest World. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, Borderlands and Glorantha. Quest World is what I was thinking of. That's not in Glorantha. Okay, I know I got messed up. But yeah, everybody that has a story about Jeff is very positive. He's just he's a soft-spoken, great guy, but with a ton of talent. And just another, very sudden that he passed away, and just another reminder that these guys are not going to be here forever. Get to know them now, talk to them now. That their influence on the game is huge, and a lot of them are kind of forgotten. I mean, Steve Perrin. I mean, I knew Steve Perrin had so many contributions to the industry, and even though he was a special guest at our con, I guess I never really did a deep dive on him because reading all this stuff, I'm just like blows my mind.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at this, and again, I had no idea he did N5. Again, that was my go-to. That and Treasure Hunt. That was it. N4 were my go-tos if I needed to start a campaign on short notice. Like, oh, I'm doing the next campaign. N4 or N5. Which one am I taking out this time? Because it was N4 gave you multiple sessions. It just and it made your players sometimes think. And it was something that once you read it as a GM, you remember the moving parts. It wasn't so complicated behind the scenes,
right?
That you had to keep notes. So it was good stuff. And what it said, and Mike and I have discussed this too, is that we're more wired into the creators today, the current generation, because we talk to them, right? We know them. We see them at cons. We converse. The creators from when we came into the industry, except for some of those major names, you don't always know that they worked on stuff.
Right.
And then you go, oh, wait a second, Alan Hammock did what?
Yep.
I mean, the guy I sat next to at the bar at North Texas and told quasi dirty stories back and forth with. He really, it's like, fuck me. So it's that kind of a thing because when we were younger, we didn't have the internet. Right? A name was just a name on a sheet of paper. Oh, okay. So even Frank Metzer wrote what? Unless they're still doing stuff now, and they really are pushing themselves, you don't necessarily go back and realize who wrote what unless you start wiring yourself in on your past.
I'd like to also say I posted something on your to you in the private chat that's a GoFundMe that Steve had started. His wife is actually very ill. She's in hospice, and I mean, sadly, she was actually a lot sicker than Steve was. Steve passed away in his sleep very unexpectedly. I mean, he was he felt ill and he had some heart issues, but they were dealing with it, and he just went to sleep, didn't wake up. His wife has had some health issues, and she's extremely sick, and so. I see they've raised $28,000 so far, which is great. Being in hospice, it says that he said here $1,500 a month, and
I believe it.
That's probably
cheap,
about
actually.
right. Yeah. And so if you can send him $10, $20, I'm going to make a contribution later tonight or tomorrow. I've got to remember my GoFundMe stuff. And so, yeah, they have, I think Eric will post that in there. Oh, I can post that too. Oh, he did it already.
I posted up and
yeah,
I didn't know about it, but here's something I'll again, I've done this for the community. This is on YouTube. Folks, if you're listening to this, after the recording, not during the recording because I'm not going to see it, after the recording, once this is no longer live, if you donate to the Kickstarter, or not the Kickstarter, the GoFundMe, I will match the first $250 that people that watch this video contribute. Between today is the what day is today? Today is I know my watch is low power. Today's the 18th. So by the 25th of August 2021, if we raise $250 or more, I will match it with $250 from the Tenkar's Tavern community. This is your money. This is the money that are raised from Humble Bundle and Drive Through RPG. That's what it goes to. So again, the link's there. I will include the link in the show notes afterwards. I'll update it with that. And again, I'll match the first $250, but you have to let me know that you that you donated money. Let me know in the comments after the show. All right?
And if you want to find, if you don't have it's very easy to find for those just watching later or listening. Just put in Steve Perrin GoFundMe, and that's Perrin, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. His wife wrote something here. I was going to read it, but I don't think I can make it through it. I'm tearing up just reading it. But his wife just wanted to thank everybody. She's been posting on his page and just thanks everybody. I tried to read it and I teared up, so I can't read it out loud. But yeah, he's apparently he's so well loved in the industry, man. He just had. I mean, I saw so many people talking about him, and you don't always see that when somebody passes away. You know, I'm not going to name names, but we've had some other pretty big names in the industry die in the last years. And yeah, people are like, oh, yeah, this guy did this or that, whatever. But, yeah, I was just amazed at the outpouring from Steve Perrin fans and people that just know what his contributions to the industry were.
I mean, again, it's amazing, and sadly it's overlooked because we knew the great material, the great works back in the day, but unless the name was Gary Gygax, you generally didn't have an idea of the individual creators. We didn't have the internet. You didn't have social media. And it's a blessing.
And I'll tell you what, too. I get a little blasé because I run a con, and a lot of these guys come to the con every year. Starting next year, I think I'm going to make a point of going up to people and thanking them for their contributions and thanking them for what they've done for the industry. Even the ones I don't like Alan Hammock. I mean, I hate the guy. No, love Alan. Love Alan. Absolutely adore Alan. I'm going to make a point of doing that because I've been a little blasé about this, I think, over the years. Or a lot of jaded. Oh, yeah, there's this guy, there's that guy. Oh, there's Janelle Jaquez. Yeah, there's Jeff Easley. Ho-hum. I'm not going to do that anymore. I think, I remember this year at the con, and seeing Darlene for the first time in 2 years, and she was so happy to be there. And I said she hugged me 4 times during the show. I mean, just walked up to me in the hall and just started hugging me. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I'm just so happy to be here. These guys, a lot of them, they love the fact that people still know who they are after all this time.
Right.
And they, you know, they just appreciate coming to these cons and talking to the fans. So yeah, say hi to these people, man. Tell them, you know, go up to Darlene and say, you know what? I just want to let you know your map was on my wall when I was a kid, and I looked at it every night before I went to bed. It was right on my bed. It was above my bed. So every time I walked to my room, there was the Greyhawk map right there.
Wow.
And I'm just, you know, I saw it every day of when I was in high school. You know, that map was there. And so, yeah, I'm going to tell her that next time. I'm going to tell you know, I we talk all the time, but I just want to let you know how much you meant to me. You know, how much your stuff meant to me. And I'm going to start doing that a little more and being a little less jaded and a little less blasé about these people.
Yeah, you know, I kind of pride myself in some ways of not being getting hit with that awe when you meet your heroes. And I think Jeff Grubb was the last time I fell for that shit. Like, Jeff, love you, man, but fuck you. It embarrassed the hell out of me. But I mean, honestly, you can still show them appreciation while not having your mouth hanging down by your navel, which Jeff
yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between over the top weirdo hero worship and saying, look, I appreciate your conscious energy, because there's some people, gosh, I won't name any names, I wish I could, that get way too much hero and worship in this industry, and they really haven't done too much. Eric probably knows what I'm talking about when I say something like that.
They're good at marketing themselves.
Yeah, and there's just too many people like that. And so, yeah, they get people that are just, they get these people that sycophants that follow them around and just, oh man, this person's just the greatest ever, and this and that. And, you know, really, the people who were in the trenches and did the hard work, sometimes they don't get all the kudos, you know, right. and they should, you know. I mean, look, let's put it gently like this. There's a reason all TSR's best stuff came out before like 1984, and that's because that's when they let go of people like Lawrence Schick, Alan Hammock. I mean, just all, you know, so many names of people that, you know, a lot of the artists they let go of, because there's a reason all their best stuff was 1984, pre-1984, because after that they let go of these people. And so, you know, when you let go of your best people, you're going to have people that are filling in that aren't quite as good. And that's, right. I think that definitely with TSR is what happened. At least until they got back to, they hired people like Ed Greenwood and Jeff Grubb and, you know, stuff like people like that. So.
Hey, this is actually,
yeah, next time you see Jeff Grubb, tell him thanks for the AD&D comic. Ask him to tell you the story about the AD&D comic, why it got canceled, which is hilarious. You know, and then tell him, you know, he's a bum. But no, I'm just kidding. I love Jeff too. But yeah, you know, see these guys, talk to him, tell them, you know, we see Alan Hammock say, yeah, I remember my party died in Ghost Tower. Thanks for killing me with that stupid Medusa. You know, when you see, gosh, I'm trying to remember. When you see Jeff Easley, tell him that you liked his covers better than you liked the original Sutherland covers, because they're actually better. They are better than the original covers, you know. So I don't know. That's all I had. I wanted to spend a little time with Steve, because I just feel like sometimes people die. We're like, oh, you know, Lynn Wachowka died. We like, oh, yeah, I did this, and we move on. I just thought it would be nice to spend a little time on somebody, because he just had so many bullet points, so many skins on the wall. That it's just hard just to pass him by. But like I said, it touches me because he was a guest at the con, and I did see him 2 years ago, and I just know how bad he felt not being able to come to the con this year. And now he won't be able to come to any more cons, and I just think that sucks.
You know, and I'll be honest with you, I think it strikes home. The recent losses in the community strike very close to home, because 2020, May of 2020, I didn't know if I was going to be around to see another convention and see my friends in gaming and do something like this. It was, you know, you stare at the precipice. and it suddenly makes things a lot more real, and it makes those connections mean a lot more. And it also means that the people that you didn't get to know and shake their hands and say, "Steve, thank you for all you did for me as a person, as a gamer, as a teen in the mid to late '80s." I never had a chance to thank him, right? And it sucks, it really does. So, uh,
Well,
like
so
Mike said, do it.
moving on from this subject matter, and a couple of things. Old business. Necropolis has a couple more days. We had Mark Greenberg on last week. Thank you for Mark for coming on the show. We had a great time talking to Marky. 64 hours to go. They're at 79,000. I don't know if we're going to hit 100. I thought we might hit 100, but I don't know if we can or not.
Probably going to be around 90.
Yeah.
Say 90, 92.
So about 3 days. 3 more days in Necropolis. Please hit that when you can. We're going to have a lot more guests in the next few weeks that have Kickstarters. We'll probably talk about them when we firm it up a little bit more, but we don't have a guest this week because I was thinking of Greg Gillespie 4 days ago. Instead of 30 minutes before the show, we could have had Greg on. We'll have Greg on again sometime. We love talking to Greg too.
Yeah. And I know somebody mentioned that. Yeah, earlier on somebody mentioned like, "Oh, I'd love to see you guys have Greg on." We had Greg on a couple of months ago. You can go back. You can look in our Talking Crit. You'll see that we had Greg. Greg is a great guest.
Watch the show because Greg, he's one of those guys. He'll get on there and he'll tell you exactly what he thinks. He does not sugarcoat it. So yes, we do have a good interview with Greg. I think that was about when he was doing the. Was that when he's doing his Kickstarter for the dwarf? Yeah. So it's been a few months, but yeah, we talked about we talked about Dallas Cowboys too, man. It's awesome. Training camps this week, man. Training camp. He just sent me a message that he sent me a message the other day that Hard Knocks sucks this year because Hard Knocks, which is a show about preseason, and they're covering the Dallas Cowboys this year, and it's terrible. Really? He said Hard Knocks is terrible. I said I know because it's just they have to focus on these dumb stories like the guy that's an orphan or the guy just they focus on they have to find something to focus on. It's just a big waste of time. So it's just funny to hear Greg talk about stuff like that. But anyway, so what do we have? So let's look at some of the things we might have missed last week. We had Mark on, and so we talked a lot of Necropolis and some general collecting stuff. We might have skipped a few things in gaming news. So
here let's start out with the good news before we get to this week in gaming stupid. All right, let's start out with the good news. And I will admit, I'm surprised. Now, here's the deal. I initially put up a $25 bounty or prize or a gift that somebody could successfully predict when Benoit would miss his weekly stretch goal turning in. He's now turned in 4 weeks. Now, it isn't officially updated yet, but Steve Chenault, about 8 hours ago, it says 7 on screen. That's because I have to refresh this. He's like, Benoit did hit the mark. Steve has not put out an update yet. Sorry about that, Tim. So, Benoit has been aces, and I'm going to.
We were wrong. We were wrong. He hit 4 weeks. I didn't think he'd hit 4 weeks either. So, congratulations, Ben. Good for you, man. Right. But I think it also shows the advantage of working under a tight deadline. I mean, that's what happens. Unfortunately, a lot of these Kickstarter projects and a lot of other projects when people go off on their own is that they don't have these hard deadlines and they let things slide. And it's just human nature, right?
Right. It's and here's the issue too. Okay, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Kickstarter is a bane and a curse, and it's a boon too. Don't get me wrong, but the problem with Kickstarter is if you haven't written the product first, right? If it isn't already ready to go, we're paying you to do something later.
Sure.
And once we've been paid, guess what? The incentive to get paid is no longer
go
there.
Down. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've already been paid for this shit. So when the comment was made earlier this year when Pro Lord picked up the responsibilities of getting this out, and basically said that Ernie is basically moved on.
Yeah.
That tells you a lot. Now, Ben did not move on. Ben did not wipe his hands of this, and I give him a lot of credit. And therefore, and I don't normally, with the predictions are the bounty, $25 prize for predicting the right. That's done. So when we hit 1,000 backers, we'll put $525 into the prize pool.
Yep.
$25 more than was initially going to be there. And it's not really
Well, and we'll give Ben a thumbs up and an attaboy because he went beyond what I thought. So that's great. I mean, I'm glad I'm wrong. This is one of those things. I'm so glad I'm wrong.
Yes.
Because look, Eric and I both backed the project. I want more material. I'd love to see more material. Ben's he's a good writer. He really is a good writer. And I know there've been so many problems the last 5 or 6 years, but for all that, Ben is a good writer. I'd love to see more Ben stuff. And so, yeah, I was glad I was wrong on this.
Right. And I like Ben. Personally, I consider him a friend. If you know me, I will still, if my friends fuck up, I still kind of point fingers and say, hey, my friend fucked up. I'm an equal opportunity offender. I think that keeps me honest, and I like to think it keeps my community honest. But when they do great, they deserve the props. And Ben is doing some amazing work, and he's doing it without his partner, right? It'd be like me doing Talking Crit every week with Mike going, fuck this shit. I got my sponsorship from my local whiskey.
I'm out. Got my whiskey. I'm out.
Fuck Tenkar. Fuck him. I got my $50 and a free bottle of booze. I'm out of here. And
I'm too much of a narcissist. You think I'd give up seeing my face on YouTube every week? Hell no. I'm so narcissistic. There's no way. I'm with you. You can't get rid of me now.
But that's how I see it. I am disappointed, all right, in Ernie for basically walking away and saying, I don't know. I got mine and my hands are clean. It upsets me because I know Ernie, I know Ben. I don't appreciate. There are people in the community who I respect that put all the weight now on Ben, and it's like it's fucking Ernie's name on a project. So yes,
I'm not going to make a lot of excuses for Ernie. He's a grown ass man, but he has had a pretty bad last few. He almost died. He admitted to being an alcoholic and a drug abuser. He's been going through all kinds of therapy. I think he's been clean now for a few years. I mean, he had a lot of life changing things happen. Maybe to him, Memorial Tomb's just something he doesn't want to deal with anymore because it reminds him of the bad old days. And I've known people that's happened. I had a friend that used to play golf all the time, was an alcoholic. And when they go out and play golf, he'd start drinking hole number 1, and by hole 18, they were loaded. I mean, the whole group was loaded, and he did that for years. And finally, when he stopped drinking, he couldn't golf anymore because to him, golfing was so connected to drinking and he even had friends saying, look, if you go golf with us, we won't even drink. We promise nobody will drink.
Right.
This, that. He's like, I just can't do it. I can't do it because golfing in his mind was so linked to drinking. Now, the good thing is he wasn't a very good golfer, so the world didn't lose a great golfer, but he just couldn't do it. So maybe in his mind, Memorial Tomb is just so linked to the past that Ernie just can't face it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to make excuses for him, but I'm just saying there could be reasons why he's just decided to absolutely walk away and he doesn't want to do this.
No, but at the same time, listen, I'm the person that looks at these successfully funded yet generally failed Kickstarters, and they really annoy the fuck out of me. And I'm always talking about my favorite one, Far West. Fuck you, Gareth. Sorry, I had to throw that in there because
he's gonna kick your ass now. He said he would.
No, he's gonna punch me in the fucking throat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He'd have to get out of his chair first, but that's what he says he's gonna do.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Gareth the Hutt, come find me. That sounds bad. All right. I apologize to
This is a
Chris
new.
for
This is
saying
going to be a
that.
new, gentler talking crit. We're gonna we're gonna just
This is
we're
me
just gonna
after a large
yeah
glass of wine. Come on, what do you want?
we're gonna be
Here we'll do more good news. We'll do two good newses. We'll do two.
okay.
All right. How about this one? All right. So, wow, I zoomed in
Oh,
way too much on that one. Hold on a second. What the hell happened
oh
there?
there we go. This is yes. I just downloaded this the other day. I haven't read it yet, but it looks wonderful.
Yes. So this is the Mystara Player's Guide. Now it's 4.5e, but listen, if you do settings, right? If you are at all into RPG settings, you know the settings are effectively stat free, right? It's all about the fluff. The crunch
Right.
is irrelevant. This is Glenn Welch. Glenn has been working on this for years, right? And
You said 5 years, yeah.
he was waiting to release this as a DM's Guild product, but I guess Mystara has yet to be released on a DM's Guild, so he can't release it on a DM's Guild. So he released it under the fan policy. But by releasing it under the fan policy, he cannot ask you to pay for it. So it is
Right.
free. And since it is free, there is a donation button. Um, I have spoken to people who don't play 5e for shit, who downloaded this and told me I just spent, and I'm not gonna say they're cheap bastards, but I'm also gonna say that they're cheap bastards. That like I just sent Glenn.
Are we talking Joe Lawyer? No, not Joe.
No,
No.
no, but they sent $15 to Glenn, and they're like, it is that good, and I want him to do
Right.
more.
And it's so absolutely free.
Huge.
I downloaded it. It's massive. It's the one thing I never played Mystara, but one thing I always liked about their Mystara's almanacs and stuff is you could flip around there and find out just all kinds of little interesting things that you could transfer to your campaign. I always loved the known world books like the Kingdom of Karamikos and the Elves of Alfheim and the Dwarves of Rockholm, because you could always pull something out of those. Now, some of those were absolute shit. There's a couple of them that were like not very good, but most of them you could pull stuff out of them. I looked through this. This looked like it was just like a cornucopia of gaming goodness in here. From just every part of it, from talking about the different lands to the different cities, the villages, the inhabitants. Just everything. It just covers so much stuff that you can transfer to any RPG.
Yeah, it is. It is good stuff. And if you've ever spoken to Glenn Welch, face to face or online, you would know this is his passion. He bleeds. His blood runs with Mystara. Whatever color Mystara is the color of his blood. So this is his passion project, and it's awesome. All right, I give him a lot of credit. So, sadly, he wasn't able to release it under the DM's Guild, but again, you can send him a donation if you like.
If you download it, at least send the guy a couple bucks just if you download. You're getting a 200-something page RPG product for free. You send the guy $5. I sent him $5. I figure it's worth something. It's worth something for having something that's free.
Here,
now, I do have one thing. Eric. Question: he has an uncensored and a censored version. I don't know what the difference is. I downloaded the uncensored because that's just kind of guy I am. I don't know. Do you happen to know what the difference is between the censored and uncensored?
I believe the artwork in the uncensored might be a little bit beyond that in the censored. I haven't really compared the two.
Chainmail bikinis, maybe.
Well, I don't know if you can rate and review it because it's not up on drive-through.
Yeah.
So that therein lies the issue. Now, if you want to rate and review something on drive-through, Caravan is a great product to rate and review. Just don't spend $15 to buy it because it is.
No. Poor Caravan.
Although they call it a fucking hex crawl, it's only a hex crawl if your board game has hexes.
If you ever market something to the wrong audience, Eric is going to get you, and that's what happens when you market things to the wrong audience. Eric is going to hammer you. He is going to hammer you, folks.
I was right. David said there's a few uncovered breasts.
Okay. Titty action.
Or right. Yeah, so
boobies. Okay, some booby action. I like boobies, so yeah. I'm glad.
The 13-year-old me would be all over this. It's like my monster manual opens up.
Succubus page. Hey.
Yes, there you knew it.
Dude, I don't know. God. You D&D geeks back in the day, people that tell me that story, I'm like, it wasn't that hard to get a Playboy magazine back then. I'm just saying. Because I wasn't looking at Succubus because I was looking at Penthouse and Playboy. So maybe I just hung with a different crowd, I guess. My crowd was a little more risque.
Listen, okay, high society and cherry when I could, I don't know, have.
Oh, you were going a little. I was a little more highbrow than you with Penthouse and Playboy. Oh dear.
No highbrow for me. And if it fell into my bag, I can't say otherwise. I don't know. It was embarrassing to pay for it, but not apparently.
I had friends with older brothers, and I remember the first time I saw a Hustler magazine, and I was like, because I was used to highbrow, I was used to Playboy and Penthouse, and they goes, yeah, my brother had some porn, he pulled it out. I'm like thinking, my teachers are better looking than this at school. Yuck! What am I looking at this for? What are you doing to me? This is terrible. Get this away from me.
I had a radio car partner who used to refer to that stuff as Romulan women. And I was like, and then I realized, oh my God, he's probably right. And this is,
I like that. I like that Ty, our unofficial law correspondent, was that degenerate. Like he expected it was going to be not going to degenerate even quicker. So just keep thinking good thoughts, Ty. Just keep thinking good thoughts.
Eric is harsh but fair. Okay, that's I step away for a minute. Now we have censored my star. No, uncensored my star.
You know what? If you had more boobies in your products, Bill, you never know. You might sell some more copies. I don't know. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, that's fair. Don't expect things out of us. You shouldn't get, Ty. No, so that's definitely send some money Glenn's way. Instead of about $5, right. It's definitely worth your time, and I was amazed. It just looks nice too. The problem, it doesn't look like somebody. God, if I did something, it would be in Word, and it would be awful. But this looks nice. Well, I say that because my stuff I do is still in Word. I send Eric Word files when I send him my stuff. So, but yeah. This stuff is very professional, very, very just really nice. One of the nicer fan things I think I've seen published.
Oh, Bill, it's Bill Marsh. That would be Boobies, right?
Yeah, BB, come on, man. BB. More boobies and pace setter products. Who says yeah.
Or we can just have James Bond flash. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, then you might. No, that's not good.
That might not sell anything, but I'm just throwing that out there.
We sell eye wash. That's what you need. That guy's a bum.
By the way, I'm going to throw this out there because my niece apparently watches every episode of Gamers Health. I don't know if she watches these because she told me today she watches Gamers Health. She's like, "Uncle, you mentioned me on Gamers Health." I went, "You watch?" She's like, "Yes, I watch." I go, "I curse." She goes, "I know you curse. I have a daddy." I'm like, "Oh, okay, you have a daddy. You've heard cursing. Okay. I don't have to smart 10-year-old." But in any case, Shannon, if you're hearing any of this, just remember it wasn't aimed in your direction and you know nothing. Nothing! Colonel Hogan.
You did not learn these words from Uncle. Uncle did not teach you these words.
No. So I will also share this link in the show notes or a pinned post or comment, however the fuck it works on the YouTubes.
Yeah, we're still not sure. It's all magic.
It's all magic. So now I want to talking about magic.
I
want to talk about some magical thinking.
We're going to get some gaming stupid. Now, this isn't Jim Ward gaming stupid. This is just Jim Ward reporting on some gaming stupid. So, or not really stupid, but it's going to be fun. It's funny. It's funny. Okay. There's some stupid here. Here. Yeah, we'll tell you where the stupid comes from after after Tenkar reads this.
Yes. And here we go. James Ward, that's from August 13th. Giant Land is alive and well. The only hang-up to printing the books is unfortunately me. Now, remember, Ernie had said prior that Giant Land was unpublishable when he looked it over, back when they were all one happy family. There are 3 books. The Monster book is in editing. The Spirit Keeper game... What the fuck? The Spirit Keeper Game Master book. Jesus. Is in editing. I'm 75% done with the character creation book and working hard at getting it done. Now, remember, didn't he say he was redoing character creation?
Yes, which is never a good sign, but Jim Ward's professional. Hopefully he has a handle on it, but yes, that's never a good sign.
All right. Yes, everyone who ordered will be getting their copy, even if you no longer want it, by the way. We'll get to that. The Kickstarter people will get their books first, and then everyone else. Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate that. The future is now. Okay. Now is your chance to create civilization anew. Giant Lands is but the latest inception of shared imagination to emerge from the culture of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which, by the way, I don't believe anybody involved in this was in Lake Geneva when it was being fucking created. But
you know what by the way, you know what the culture of Lake Geneva is? Gangsters from Chicago. Because that's who used to come up in the 20s on trips was gangsters from Chicago. So that's the culture of Lake Geneva. But anyway.
Okay. Created by. I feel like I'm doing like I should be doing this in a movie voice. You know, the movie promo voice. Created by Stephen E. Dinehart and James M. Ward with Ernie Gary Gygax Jr. Everything you need. 3 core books, game dice, game tokens. They're leaving out the fucking mask and the costume. Limited edition poster, 4 pre-made characters. Requirements 2 to 10 players, ages 12 plus, 90 plus minimum play time. Now, here's where it gets fun. And here is where the gaming stupid starts creeping in. Okay? We would really appreciate some more orders on the box set. If it helps, this set of rules is one of the most creative I've ever designed, and apparently the first post-apocalypse fantasy rules that James has ever seen, including his own that he's written in the past. I just figured I had to share that part because, no, Terry just said that Jim just posted another Facebook.
I just saw it. It was a couple lines. He just says that they're going to proofread a file and send it to the editor tomorrow. So that was about it.
All right. So here. Limited run, and when he says limited run, I don't know if he means limited runaway, but only 2,000 of this first edition set are available. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This is the second version of the first edition.
Not confusing. I'm starting to get confused, but no, not hopefully that confused.
Right. The first version was created for our Giant Lands limited first edition Kickstarter backers. This is a first edition which will not be made again. It's exclusively available on our website and is only available in print. Which version is that? The second version of the first? All right. So now, before we move on from this, I'm going to show you something real quick, and I'm going to bounce back.
Oh, I don't know if I want to see this. No, right. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
All right. So this is the Giant Lands Kickstarter page. All right. Now, it was due, by the way, in I guess February of March of 2020.
It's 2 years. I think it's
year and a half late. But there were 77 backers. Okay, there were 77 fucking backers of Giant Lands. Now, let's say that some of these people were backing it. I mean, maybe there's a retailer pledge level, and some people were going for Is there a retailer pledge level? There's a cosplay box set. All right, so fuck it. There's no retailer pledge level. So let's just say somehow those 77 backers are backing for 100 copies. Okay? Somebody is ordering 2,000 first edition sets. We had 77 people interested in our Kickstarter. We got a market for 2,000. I don't need to know major publishers. I could tell you flat out right now, very few products are getting 2,000 copy print runs, especially for a game that's never been published before. And
maybe if it has some buzz, but this had a little buzz last month, and now it's got no buzz because Ernie and Lanasa disappeared. But they were put in a witness protection program or something. We haven't heard anything from them. But
right, so let's get to that part. So we're gonna get here all. Get a credit, register, play, provide feedback, and see your name in the next edition. All registered 1E owners that help playtest and submit constructive feedback, and by the way, it has to be constructive, will get credits as game testers in the next edition. Created by Stephen E. Dinehart IV and James M. Ward, with Ernest Gary Gygax Jr., with art by Larry Elmore, Jeff D., Zen Holt, Steven Stincy, Rolf Moore, and Josh Diffie. Published and produced in Wisconsin, USA. So now, besides all the name dropping, they've just told you that first edition is a beta. You're beta testing. You're paying to beta test, and they're doing 2,000 copies of their beta test. But wait, there's more. This is a pre-order, and it ships sometime in the fall of 2021. They're saying September 2021. We're in August. They haven't finished writing, right? But here's the Gaming Stupid. And if you want Gaming Stupid, you've come to the right place. Note, we are no longer affiliated with the TSR trademark holder. Now, I'm going to break that down for you real quick. Note, they didn't say TSR, right? The TSR trademark holder. So now they are no longer part of TSR of the newest TSR. Right. So they're no longer claiming that TSR is the original TSR reborn, raised like a fucking phoenix or reincarnated. No, they are no longer saying that shit, right?
Yeah.
They are saying basically, the jackasses that got the TSR trademark, those people, not TSR, the ones that have the trademark.
Because there was there's been a splitting of there's been a parting in the ways here.
Yeah, very much so. So, due to the limits of this e-commerce system, like e-commerce has suddenly just happened. All right. No, we haven't been doing e-commerce. New, man. Yeah.
This internet thing, it may stick around for a while.
Right. Due to the limit of this e-commerce system, backorder. Let's use this little quotation marks. Backorder is the equivalent of pre-order. What? Backorder.
Because it hasn't come out yet. So it hasn't come out yet. There actually is no backorder to backorder. It's still a pre-order. Yes.
Right. So, because for something to be backordered, doesn't that have to mean
it has to be already out? Yeah, it has to be out there at some point. Yes.
So it's the equivalent of a now. Why are they calling it the equivalent of a pre-order? Well, because as an independent company, now why are they saying they're an independent company? As an independent company, no longer affiliated with TSR, which my understanding is that there was never any contract signed between all these players.
Sure.
Which is why this whole shit fell apart like it did, and everybody took the ball and went home. As an independent company, orders will not be refunded. As these funds help us get the game to you. I don't want the game anymore. No, you want it. Oh, I don't want it anymore. We need these funds to get the game to you, but I don't want the game. Fuck you. You paid for it. You're getting the game. No, I want my money back. Fuck you. We can't do that. Please be sure to commit prior to purchase. And now when they're saying commit, I would say that probably means to a mental facility to make sure that you are of sound mind and mental health. But that could be wrong.
This is why this is so delicious. This is so delicious because back when Lanasa and Ernie were putting their foot in the poop every other day, saying something crazy, you had all these virtue signalers. And by the way, I say virtue signalers. You can have virtue signalers on the left and the right. The right. I mean, anybody can virtue signal.
I've been accused of being a virtue signaler on the right by saying I don't want politics in my fucking game.
We're not picking on any political class. We're just saying virtue signalers. So these virtue signalers, they were all the place going, man, we're gonna send TS. I want to buy 5 of these Giant Land sets because we're gonna stick it to those people who don't like Lanasa and don't like Ernie. First of all, nobody didn't like Ernie. It was just that Ernie put his foot in his mouth a couple of times. Lanasa was really the one who was more just being obnoxious and abrasive and this and that. So they were going to support that company. We're going to buy all these copies. I'm buying a copy for me and all my friends. I mean, if you can't see it now because it's all been taken down, but this was on and on about how they were going to buy this. This looks like a great game. We can't wait to play it. I'm buying copies for my kids. This, that. So all these people went out and bought all these copies. Well, the minute that TSR affiliate holders, whatever they want to call themselves, and the Giant Lands people parted ways, suddenly all these TSR backers had buyer's remorse because they never really wanted to play Giant Lands. Yeah. They never liked Giant Lands. They didn't give a shit about Giant Lands. What they wanted to do is they wanted to stick it to the other side of the political spectrum by paying $60 for this box set of something they'd never seen before and had no clue what it was, but they were going to show them. And so then if you saw some of the posts, they were going, hey, Giant Lands is no longer associated with TSR. You need to, if you've ordered this, ask for your money back because Lanasa's not getting your money anymore.
Right.
So you know what? This makes me laugh my ass off.
Oh, it's fucking hilarious.
Because these are people that never were buying this because they wanted to play it. They were buying it to stick it to the man. And now they're basically saying, look, if you buy this, we're not going to, just because we've switched, the money's going to this person instead of that person, we're not going to give your money back. I mean, you should be buying this because you wanted to play the game, not because you wanted to virtue signal. And so I always love it when virtue signalers, I don't care what side of the political spectrum, when they get kicked in the nads. It makes me laugh my ass off when a virtue signaler gets kicked in the nads. And that's exactly what's happening here. Now, can they still get their money back? Yes, you could charge your credit card back, maybe.
Remember, they made it harder because remember, last month, Deinhardt made the big announcement that their Stripe account had been hacked or something.
Had been hacked. It was something really crazy.
And they were no longer affiliated with Stripe. So I will throw this out there. Now, this is just me spitballing.
Pure speculation. Pure speculation.
But I would guess that this could possibly, follow my language here, I would guess that this could possibly be an attempt to prevent chargebacks. Well,
I would absolutely agree that sounds like a possibility because that would do it. Because what happened was after Lanasa and Deinhardt parted ways, they had a slew of people wanting to get their money back. Well, they'd just been in any day with all this money, and look, they probably didn't have any money. I mean, I don't know, because this project came out 2 years ago. As Eric and I have chronicled many times, usually the Kickstarter money is all gone by now if it's been that long. So this was a godsend to them. All of a sudden, these people were just pouring money into Giant Lands. Well, all of a sudden, these people poured money into Giant Lands. Like, oh no, I don't want 5 copies for me and my kids anymore because you're not friends with Lanasa anymore. So I want my money back. Yeah. So then they say, oh, you can't get any refunds through Stripe anymore. I'm sorry about that. And now they're basically saying right here, we're not giving refunds. So yes, if you bought it and you try to do a chargeback on your credit card, it might not go through.
Right.
that might not work for you.
Right. And now again, how many copies were these people virtue signaling with? Well, I would assume, based on the fact that the limited run of only 2,000 first edition box sets.
Oh boy!
All right, I would say that I'm going to ballpark it. Maybe that a couple hundred, easy, right? the Kickstarter only got them 77 buyers. Maybe this got them 400 or 500 box set, and they're like, "Wow,
I mean,
we've got 500 box sets on pre-order. Let's order 2,000. Rah rah rah. We're gonna. Oh fuck."
Yep. And now, whoa, hold on. Now we're not. Oh, wait a second. Now people are starting to charge back on this. Yeah, they, absolutely. For them, they did the right thing in saying no chargebacks. But yes, this is
not a good sign.
This is funny. I would love to see the angry. And a lot of these people, if you were there at the time, like, unfortunately the Twitter account's been shut down, so have the Facebook pages, because I didn't. I'm usually pretty good about screenshotting stuff. I didn't screenshot a lot of this, but you had all these people that were like, you know what, I haven't played D&D in 25, 30 years, but these guys have the right guys mad at them, so I'm gonna support them and buy all their stuff. Well, good for you. You did. You supported them and you bought their stuff. Now it just so happens that the guy you thought you were supporting is not the guy you're actually supporting.
Right. Yeah.
But too bad. Tough luck. I don't feel sorry for you. You're stuck with a game you didn't want to begin with. So now you're really stuck with it. Sucks to be you. Yeah, sucks to be you. Sorry about that.
It's James Ward's Facebook page. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times James's page and the Giant Lands page are indistinguishable.
Mm-hmm.
James has really gone to really push.
And honestly, I mean, this is probably, if you pay for the game, you probably should get a copy of it. James is not a terrible writer. He's a legend in the industry. He's probably going to put up a good game. So why are you returning it? Just get it and at least read through the damn thing and see if it's worth playing, instead of just saying, "Oh, well, since Ernie and Lanasa don't have this anymore, I'm gonna, I want my money back." That's bullshit. It'd be. I mean, I give you 100 examples why this is stupid. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it'd be like if we were gonna, if Frog God tomorrow said we're gonna do Rappin' Athic Part 2 now, and everybody's like all excited, and then 2 weeks later they buy copies. 2 weeks later, say, "Oh, it's actually Mike Battleotto's going to do Rappin' Athic Part 2." Oh, I want my money back now because hold on, he did it, but he was going to do it before anyway. It just changed. Right. It's just not Frog God anymore. It's Mike Battleotto himself. Oh, well, I don't like that guy. Well, tough luck. You were going to buy it when it was Frog God Games. So it's just. Tough luck. You virtue signaled. You got caught with your pants down. I have no sympathy for virtue signalers that get nad kicked, and so that's exactly what's happening here, which is funny as shit. Because these guys were so badass when this was going on. They were. God. Oh my gosh! The post. Eric and I we would not call each other up, but we would IM each other all day long going, "Have you seen this one? Have you seen this guy? This guy says he's buying 8 copies. I mean, just because they made the right people mad.
I'll give it one to everybody in my group and their spouses."
Yes, these were true posts. I can't believe I didn't screenshot this shit. It was hilarious. And so now they're getting screwed because now it turns out they're going to be stuck with the game that they bought. Oh, well, too bad.
Right.
Too bad. So sad.
Terry says, any thoughts on who the secret ex-TSR designer editor is supposedly working on Giant Lands might be? Jim Crispy mentions her and his
he did. He mentioned
Facebook post. And I listen, not for nothing, but the number of people that TSR or Giant Lands have mentioned on their products that have said, "There's no fucking way I'm going to be associated with your products," is a very large list. And I honestly don't know. I'm not going to speculate because I would assume that any name I would throw out there and speculate with, that person's going to go, "Fuck you, it's not me." And,
hey, Eric, I wanted to read. So this is the kind of stuff I did find. I went to Giant Land's page. I did find an old reply. Uh-oh. This is the kind of stuff that. This is why I'm laughing my ass off, because this is the kind of shit that they're doing now. So this is a guy posted this. How about picking up your phone, maybe answering emails, or giving me a refund for a non-TSR product when you bait and switched me and others? You sold this as an old school TSR nostalgia with TSR in the artwork. Okay, stop right there. NASA and company, everybody sold that as is. But if you had half a fucking functioning brain cell, you knew it wasn't going to be an old school TSR product with TSR on the artwork. If you had half a functioning brain cell. Okay, so it continues. You sold this as old school TSR nostalgia with TSR on the artwork. Then you changed your brand to Wonder Bread or whatever generic BS company you have now. That's like selling me a Sony TV and then rebranding to some cheap random third world company knockoff, not the same. I committed to TSR. I didn't commit to your cheap knockoff. Give me refund. That's why we're laughing our ass off this, because that's the kind of effing moron that sent money to these guys.
It was a TSR product for what, like a month? I mean, if that, I mean, and even then, obviously, well, let's say what it is. Apparently, there was never a contract involved in any of this.
No, not at all. And look, no, if you thought, look, you have to be really just dumb or uneducated, or you could be out of the gaming industry for 30 years to think that this new TSR, it had no connections with the old TSR.
No.
None. Yes, Ernie Gygax's on board. Ernie did nothing for the old TSR. You know, his name is on like one product or two products, as you know, not even as a full author. He worked, let's put it this way, he worked for this company for 10 years with his father in charge of it, and he didn't get anything published. So he had no, he didn't, he was, look, he helped work the Dungeon Hobby Shop and ran Mamaro Tomb out of the basement, and that was, you know, that was his contribution there. So thinking this was going to be an old school TSR product is the height of self-delusion. And so that's why I have no sympathy for these people wanting to get a refund now and getting mad because it's not a TSR product. It was never a TSR product. TSR still doesn't even exist anymore. It's gone again. So crying about getting a refund does not make me want to back your cause at all. It makes me laugh at you.
It makes me fucking laugh.
Point and laugh.
Again, these are... Listen, these are the same types of jackasses that they're lemmings. You know, they're like, oh, look, TSR is sticking it to the man. They're gonna. Why? I don't understand why they can't buy D&D back. Well, D&D
that was always that was a good one. The guy, you need to buy back D&D. Why can't you buy back D&D?
But it's probably worth like $100 million. Yeah, but it can go down in value, and if it does, they could buy it. That's my niece might be 10, but she understands how the real world works a lot better than that, and she'd be like, "Yeah, that ain't happening, Uncle. It ain't happening." Okay, so but it's like they live in this imaginary fucking world, and it's just like. But it says TSR, and it's 1980 again, right? No, it isn't, dude. And these
the thing was that Eric and I talked about this time. The claims weren't even being made by Lanos and Ernie. These were claims by deluded fans that kept thinking this. I mean, that they weren't saying. I mean, they were kind of hinting at it, but they weren't coming right out and saying this. No, the fans, the ones that were coming out downright saying, "This is TSR return, man. They're back. It's TSR again."
Well, they claimed that they started Gen Con.
Well, that was
come on. We're the company that started Gen Con, and we're being banned from Gen Con. No, dude, no, you're not the company that started Gen Con.
I can't reach anyone via phone or email. I want to get a refund as I haven't played games in 30 years and was looking forward to TSR nostalgia. Idiot. I don't have a clue what's going on, but I'd like to know why no one is answering calls, emails, or on their page. I don't think you're getting your money back, dude. Sorry, man. And then somebody underneath it posts, "You can't get a refund." Unfortunately, it's posted on their page that refunds will not be honored. And then we get a sad, angry face emote from the guy. Oh. Does this mean I can't get a refund since I bought only because TSR was going to be on the box? What is this infatuation with the 3 letters TSR? It doesn't guarantee quality. It doesn't guarantee anything.
No. But again, like you said, Mike, they weren't buying it because they were going to play it. They were buying it because, TSR is giving Hasbro the fucking finger. TSR is telling Wizards of the Coast to go fuck themselves, and they're going to reclaim Dungeons and Dragons. They're going to put out Star Frontiers.
All that, yeah. So anyway, that's gaming stupid, but not gaming stupid from Jim Ward or them or that. This is gaming stupid from virtue signaling, not very intelligent. Look. And Eric and I talk about this a lot on the show. If you're going to put money into Kickstarter or invest money in something, do a little research. Google something and find out TSR is back. I haven't heard about this. Google TSR returns. It's not really TSR. It's a couple of carpetbaggers. It's the people that are just saying they're TSR.
Hey, Terry has an interesting comment. Justin Lanasa hasn't really disappeared. He's very recently been trying to grift a major D&D illustrator into handing over first production rights for an original painting that I own. I'm sure that would include a contract that's blank except for where you sign.
Yeah, we heard that story from Lloyd a couple weeks ago. They're trying to get stuff on the cheap, and they're trying to do it kind of sleazily conny by, hey, here's a blank contract. Just sign the blank contract. We'll fill in the numbers and the letters and everything. And luckily, Lloyd talked that one artist out of doing that. Thank goodness. Lloyd's a little smarter, not smarter, but he just was a little more suspicious. And Lloyd said, "Don't sign that. No." And so, yes, they were trying to get this artist's work for basically free for eternity because they were going to once you get them to fill in the contract, good God knows what you've signed.
Listen, a legitimate company will not say, "Hey, sign this blank contract and we'll fill in the details later because that'll save time." Nobody who's legitimate is going to tell you to do that. Nobody. Okay.
And there's contract. Look, if you want a contract, there's a lot of artists out there that do spec work for companies. There's a lot of companies like Bill and Frog God and stuff like that hire people. Talk to them and ask them what a contract looks like, or what is the contract that they use. And then that's the kind of thing you need to be looking at, not something that this shyster guy or this guy is sending you in the email that apparently is just really over the top. When you look at it he's going to own this for eternity and he's only going to pay me $20 or whatever, whatever the rights are. Definitely look at a legit contract and see what it looks like before you sign anything like that.
Yep. As Ty just mentioned, in almost every state, you are presumed to know what you signed.
Yeah. Ignorance is not a defense. If you sign something stupid and you're effed up, as Ty says there, I didn't know what I was signing. Nope. They're going to say, did you sign this? Yep. Okay. Next case. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter that, that you're stupid. Stupidity is not a defense there. Now, there is defenses to certain things, but that's in that case, if you're a grown ass man or woman, they're going to say, not our problem.
I like this. Lanasa claimed that the art would be used on the cover of Monster Manuscript 3.
We need to have a talk to Terry because this sounds like it's hilarious. We need to have an off-camera talk because this sounds pretty funny. Yeah, that sounds like he's doing his usual stuff. But, hey, look, he's off social media. Score one mostly, for that at least.
Yeah.
For the most part, we don't have to listen to their stuff. I still think they got a C&D, and that's why we haven't seen hide nor hair of anybody associated with that, who God knows that C&D included in there.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big part of it.
Or the letter that says the next communication will be a C&D.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Please stop misrepresenting yourself as our company. Could you please do that? Because if you don't, the next letter is going to be from a lawyer. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yes, Terry. We've never been able to hook it up properly. But we might have to throw Mike into the mix on this one because I think Mike is as wired in as I am, if not more so sometimes. But Yeah, Terry's. God bless him. God bless the community. I got to be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff that would get by me. I am not watching every page 24/7. And it's this community, whether it's reaching out on Facebook or email, text messages on Discord, that gives me the heads up on stuff. And it's invaluable, not just for the podcast and the YouTube, but for the blog side and what I do. So without this community, uh,
Mhm.
I would be a tenth of the reporter, creative, uh, muckraker, which I've had friends call me, so I guess I'll
Mhm.
take it.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. Without people in the community looking out and doing what they do, I really am in your debt. So
And it's worth
just
to
wanted
say,
to put out there.
I mean, this really is a great community. I there's so many things in this community that I enjoy, and one of the things is the fact that, especially if you go to like North Texas or a convention, if somebody has a question, man, everybody there is there to help them. If there's like,
Yes.
look, I look at all the seminars they have about how to run Kickstarters. I know Skeeter and Zach have this continuous seminar they run all the time about small publishing and different things you need to know before you're a small publisher. They both would know because they've had successful Kickstarter projects. It's a really giving community, and people will answer your questions. If you have a question, just throw it out there, and you'd be surprised at, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised. I'm usually not surprised because everybody I've met's been helpful. And the people that, honestly, the people that aren't helpful, the people that are the killjoys, they don't make it this hobby that long. A lot of them are
No.
gone. A lot of them were around and they disappear. They get frustrated because people aren't doing things the way they want to do it, and they leave, which is great because we don't want them in our hobby anyway. Or the Zach Smiths who are while talented, is just a weirdo, and finally everybody just got tired of dealing with his bullshit. People like that, they eventually get weeded out of this community. I'm very very happy, I'm very proud to be part of this community.
So it's a very long way for us to say thank you, each and every one of you, really. Because without you, we would be a lot less.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
Terry, thank you.
And
You leave me
without
in the dark.
Bullet
It's not
Rye
a.
whiskey, I
It's not
wouldn't
a.
be sober on. I would be sober on
Well,
whiskey
all
night.
right,
So
but they're not a sponsor.
call me,
As,
call me.
call
I'm
me,
sorry.
call
Go ahead.
me
Go ahead.
anytime. Call me. Isn't that Blondie or
That's
something like
Blondie.
that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's Deborah Harry,
So,
man.
yeah, you don't want me singing Blondie, folks.
No.
No,
Maybe you
sorry,
could throw it
Bob.
if you throw in a blonde wig. We could get into that, but no. So do we have any more gaming stupid? That was a lot of gaming stupid, and
That's a lot of gaming
it was
stupid.
funny though. It made me laugh. It was made
Yeah.
me happy. That's kind of stuff that makes me happy. Do we have
So,
Do we have anything else? I can't remember if we talked about anything else before the show that we were going
I
to
don't.
spotlight.
I don't think so. So listen, we're going to do the usual. We are at sorry 970.
Oh, we're getting
subscribers.
right on the edge
We
there,
are
folks.
30 subscribers away from 1,000. I'd like to see us get there by the end of the month, if
Yes.
or at the very least by the holiday weekend.
We got 2 weeks. 2 weeks the end of the month. That'd be great. And then we have Labor Day the weekend after that. So
now when we hit 1,000, like I said, I'm going to give away $525 in drive-through or RPG Now certificates. I still think it is RPG Now because that's where I hung my hat. Mm-hmm. We're going to give it away on an episode of Talking Crit to our live audience. And again, it's your money. But on top of that, remember, I'm gonna put the GoFundMe in the show notes. I'm gonna put the GoFundMe as either a pinned comment or in the description of this episode. I'm gonna drop it again here in the chat. If you donate to the GoFundMe for Steve Perrin's wife's medical expenses, please mention it as a comment after this show, not when we're live. After this show has been gone into its like post play or whatever you call it, and mention that you donated whatever. I donated $25. I donated $10. Anything that's done within the next week, if it hits 250, I'll match or more. I'll match that first 250. If we hit less, I'll match whatever that amount is. This is your money. This is what happens with your drive-through affiliate money, Humble Bundle monies, your Patreon monies. This is what it goes to. Things like this. So if we can give back and help Steve's widow,
sure,
we'd like to.
It would be great. Yeah, and it's great to help out people like that who these people didn't have the same kind of company that a lot of people of us work for. They were contractors for the most part. They didn't have insurance policies and health benefits and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very essential that we help out some of the founding fathers and their families, definitely.
Yes. So going down in the future, once we hit our 1,000 goal of subscribers, Mike, myself, Joe, Glenn, we're in discussions on if we can monetize, how we're going to focus that monetization. We will announce that when we've got a clearer view of what we're doing, but it's going to be something for the community because we all believe in supporting the community that supports us. So, on that note,
so 30 more people. We just need 30. Get 30 friends. Make your parents sign up. Get your son.
Yeah. Even my niece is subscribing. She's only 10. God bless her.
Your kids, whatever. Just tell them something. They don't ever have to watch.
Yeah. And if they're too young, they probably should. But, folks, if you like this, like the episode, comment after the show. Your comments help drive the algorithm on YouTube. As always, I'm vaccinated. Mike is vaccinated. I am not telling you what to do. Neither one of us are. We're all gamers, right? We all know how to judge the risk versus reward, or what's riskier. You know your risk factors based upon your own health issues. I knew mine. Mike knew his. Talk to a medical professional and weigh your options and make a decision that will keep yourself, your loved ones, your friends, your family healthy and safe. You can't help others if you yourself are sick, right? Be safe, be well. God bless each and every one of you. Roll those dice, roll them well. I will be back Friday. Friday may or may not be Dungeons, Dragons, and Discourse with Glenn Hallstrom. Glenn's moving on Friday.
Oh,
we may push that to Saturday. Rach and I may do Gamers Health a night earlier, but in any case,
switch there.
There will be a live stream at 8:00 on Friday and 8:00 on Saturday. Either way. All right, folks. On that note, we're out of here.
Later.
And no, we're not sponsored by any alcohol.
Damn it.